Hey guys, I'm Jason, and I'm here to tell you about Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. So, little backstory first. As you can tell, I am a huge Metal Gear fan. First Metal Gear game I played was Metal Gear Solid 2. It came out around 2001, and I didn't really like it at first because I didn't really understand it, but because the story is just all over the place, but I digress. Anyway, I fell in love with the series, played through all of the games. When Metal Gear Solid 4 came out in 2008, I was floored. I was even more floored when I found out they were making a fifth one, the final one. And boy, is this game good. Now, getting into the story, okay. Well, there is a man in Japan by the name of Hideo Kojima. This man is crazy, and he's also a genius, because he made this huge, elaborate storyline that spans for years and years and years, and it all started in 1987 when Metal Gear for the MSX came out. This game was very popular, which spawned Metal Gear 2 a few years later, and then in 1995, Metal Gear Solid for the PlayStation 1 came out, and this game revolutionized video games. It had cinematic gameplay, for the time, for the PlayStation 1. Cinematic gameplay, a very compelling story, very tight controls, all that good stuff, and then came Metal Gear Solid 2, 3, 4, and here we are today with 5. But I will say these games are not that easy to get into. You really need to know the backstory. You can't just jump into a Metal Gear Solid game without knowing what's going on. But it's about tactical espionage, the threat of nuclear war, all that good stuff. Well, in a nutshell, it stars a man by the name of Big Boss, who is a legendary soldier. He is so legendary that he hates the government, and they know it. So he leaves land, pretty much, makes this entire base in the middle of the ocean, and makes his whole private army, who have no rulers, no allegiance to anybody. And of course he makes enemies doing that, and as time progresses, Big Boss gets cloned, and so his legacy lives on, and his clone is named Solid Snake, who is identical to Big Boss. Without getting into too much details, more threats of nuclear war, yada yada yada. Anyway, MGS 5 takes place right in the middle of the chronological timeline. Big Boss wakes up after a 9-year coma, and he's missing his left arm. After reuniting with some of his friends, the only thing on their minds is revenge. They want to go after the people who screwed them over 9 years prior. So, Metal Gear Solid 5 is all about building up what you lost. You build back your private army, you build up your base in the middle of the ocean, and the two locations you do so are Afghanistan, North Kabul, Afghanistan to be exact, and some place I don't remember in Africa. Once I got into this, I realized that, wow, Metal Gear Solid 5 is huge. The game is enormous, which is a real far cry from the previous Metal Gear games. Those games were more like movies. They had a very linear path. You go from point A to point B, and then the cutscene plays, and it looks more like a movie. The story was very heavy-handed. But with 5, the cutscenes are very intermittent, and they're not too long like the other games were, but the game is just rife with gameplay. There are huge sections of land that you just go across with a horse or a car and whatnot, recruit soldiers, defeat enemies. Well, that's kind of where it slightly falls short, because there is just huge expansions of nothing. It is just completely brown and bland looking. And the Metal Gear games are known for their, high-quality graphics. These games take, 7 years to make, or something like that. 5 looks great in the cutscenes and in the really close-up shots inside buildings and such. It's like photorealistic graphics, but just the environments are pretty bland. They're not terrible, but the gameplay itself is fantastic. Big Boss just does these epic karate moves and slams people down on the ground, stuff that I'm just wow, I wish I could do that. You have this thing called a Fulton recovery system, which is when you want to recruit something, whether it be a person or if you want to just take a car back to your base, you put this balloon on the car or the person and just shoots them up in the air. It's really fun and funny because you can also recruit animals. You can Fulton a bear up to your helicopter. There's endless entertainment to be found in this game. It's just a huge open sandbox that when you don't want to play the story or don't want to do the side missions, you can just go around and just screw around, kind of similar to Grand Theft Auto, just not as much in the environment. But still, when you get the ball rolling, there is just a lot of variety. For example, you have a mission to take out a Russian general. Your comrade tells you that they're in that base over there. They don't tell you the time of day, how to get there, what to do. That is just up to you. If you want, you can wait until the nighttime. You can wait until the daytime. You can sneak in. You can go in guns blazing with your helicopters and recruited bears if you want. that all doesn't matter. That's where this game shines. There is so much choice, and it all shines immensely, and it's really fun. Getting back to the story, though, I mentioned it's a little sporadic, not as linear as the other Metal Gear games, which is okay. It's still good, though. But the strangest thing is the female sniper known as Quiet. Now, since she was revealed a few years ago, a lot of people on the internet are like, oh my god, why does this person only wear a bikini, when they're sniping? And the story in the game actually gives you a reason as to why she's half naked. And it's just strange. Like, I remember scratching my head like, what? Why? I mean, I think we all know the real reason why she's half naked. Boobs. Another thing, too, which I had a little trouble getting used to, was David Hayter not being in the game. David Hayter is the famed voice actor for all the other Metal Gear Solid games. He voiced Solid Snake and Big Boss throughout every other one, and his voice is iconic to that role. So when MGS 5 was coming out, we all just assumed Hayter was going to voice Big Boss again, but no, this time they got Kiefer Sutherland. Kiefer Sutherland being a very famous, actor from 24 and movies galore. That rhymed. And he's a great actor, and he voices Big Boss really well, I guess because he's older, so I guess the developers wanted an older-sounding man. And he also did the motion capture for Big Boss himself. I guess David Hayter doesn't really do that. I don't know. But it's weird because Big Boss barely speaks in this game. He has some, lines, but mostly he's just like reacting to things. And maybe that's because Sutherland's an expensive guy and they couldn't have him say too much lines. So it's like, why didn't they just get Hayter? I don't know. I am not a businessman. Sutherland still sounds really good in this game, but I kind of do miss David Hayter. Well, this game takes place in 1985. So there's cassette tapes. If you don't know what that is, kids, they're like tiny little tapes that you put in a little thing called Walkman. Google it. I kind of remember them growing up. I just remember CDs more. But anyway, throughout this entire game, as you raid bases and whatnot, you can collect cassette tapes. It's really fun, and some of them have actual music on it from the era. But in your downtime, when you don't want to play a mission or so, you can listen to mission briefings through cassette tapes, and that's where Kiefer Sutherland talks the most, which confuses me because if he's talking more there but not as the character Big Boss, whatever. I miss you, Hayter. Hayter's gonna hate. So, in conclusion, Metal Gear Solid 5 is awesome. I really love this game. It's a little different from the other Metal Gear games, which may turn some people off because it's not linear at all. The story is not as heavy as the other games, and maybe some people wanted that. If they priced games based on how much content was inside, this game would be like $800. Because I have about 20 hours logged in, I think, since I bought it, and I'm only like 20% complete. There is so much to do. It's insurmountable. Even when you don't want to play the story, you can just screw around and like recruit animals to your army and like beat up dudes and go assassinate Russian generals. It's all the fun stuff. And you can pick a song from your cassette tape collection and put it as your battle music in your helicopter. Currently, I have Rebel Yell by Billy Idol. So I take the attack helicopter and it comes zooming down with Rebel Yell playing as they're shooting people. Oh, it's so much fun. So yeah, Metal Gear Solid 5 is awesome. I think you guys should all get it. It's for everything out there except Nintendo consoles. It's a lot of fun, so much value in it. Not as much story as I was expecting for a Metal Gear game, but that's okay. No David Hayter, but Kiefer Sutherland's a good substitute, and it is just a lot of fun. Hey guys, thanks again for watching. I really appreciate it. And please follow me on Twitter at jgreen89. That's J-A-Y, green like the color, 89, my birth year. But tweet me, say hi, whatever. Even give me some constructive criticism. I want to make this show as good as possible. So again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.